Welcome to the Agile Software Engineering Deep Dive, the podcast where we unpack the ideas shaping modern software engineering. My name is Alessandro Guida, and I've spent most of my career building and leading software engineering teams across several industries. And today I want to talk about something that is quietly changing the way we approach project management. For a long time, our discipline has been built around hindsight. We measure, we report, and we analyze once things have already happened. But that creates a fundamental limitation, because by the time we understand the problem, the opportunity to influence the outcome is often gone. AI and predictive analytics promise a shift, from explaining the past to anticipating the future. But that promise comes with a challenge, because predictions are not certainty, and acting on them requires a different kind of thinking. In this episode, I explore what predictive project management really means in practice, where AI can genuinely help, where it can mislead, and why engineering discipline remains essential even in a data-driven world. Because in the end, it is not about predicting the future perfectly. It is about seeing it early enough to change it. Let's dive in.
Have you ever looked at a project report, maybe one of those big, shiny, multi-page documents that just randomly lands on your desk, and realized with this kind of sinking feeling that you aren't actually looking at a status update?
Oh, I know that feeling. You're reading an autopsy.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. An autopsy. Like, you only find out a crucial milestone was missed or, a budget completely slipped when it's way too late to fix it.
Right. The patient is already dead on the table.
Yeah. And it's a brutal realization, right? Because at that point, you're left holding this, a very detailed explanation of why the failure happened, but you have zero ability to change the outcome.
The damage is already done. You're just managing the fallout.
Right. And that exact scenario is actually the foundation of our deep dive today. We're pulling from issue 27 of an Agile software engineering newsletter, and it focuses on this piece titled AI and Predictive Project Management, From Reporting to Steering.
It's a really fascinating look at how the industry is shifting.
It is, and our mission for you today is to explore how complex engineering environments are, finally ditching this totally hindsight-driven approach. We want to show you how they're using predictive analytics so you can stop reacting to failures and start actively steering your projects towards success. Okay, let's unpack this.
So if you think about the classic project management office, right, the PMO, it's operated almost entirely in hindsight for, decades.
Oh, totally.
The traditional rhythm is just you measure progress, you track the deviations from the baseline plan, and then you essentially demand an explanation for why things went wrong.
Which fundamentally limits a manager's role to just consequence management.
Exactly.
I always look at traditional project managers in these environments like drivers navigating a really high-speed highway, but they're driving exclusively by staring into the rearview mirror.
That is a terrifying image, but it's accurate.
Right, like you see the pothole after you've already blown a tire, or you see the traffic jam after you're already gridlocked right in the middle of it.
Which is pretty much a guaranteed way to crash the car. And the newsletter argues that in complex software engineering, reacting late isn't just, a minor inefficiency.
Yeah, it's fatal.
It is. It's often the literal difference between a product succeeding in the market or completely failing, because software development is just so highly interdependent.
Well, because everything is connected.
Exactly. A small delay in like a core API integration in week 3, it doesn't just push the project back a few days. It creates this cascading bottleneck that might literally halt 3 completely different teams by week 7.
So if looking backward is basically a death sentence for modern engineering projects, what does effectively looking forward actually require? Does this mean an organization needs to, stand up a dedicated machine learning pipeline and hire a dozen data scientists just to track their sprint velocity?
No, not at all. Though the industry tendency is definitely to overcomplicate this, right, with heavy terminology and massive software investment.
Of course. It always is.
But at its core, predictive project management is actually surprisingly simple. It's really just the practice of using data from past and current execution to estimate what happens next.
Okay, so just looking at what you've already done.
Right. The conceptual shift isn't about some massive complex algorithm, at least not initially. It's about the signals we actually choose to observe.
Oh, interesting.
Because most organizations already have a wealth of historical data just sitting there, totally unanalyzed, in their issue trackers.
Right. We're talking about basic telemetry here. Things like task durations over time, the delta between original estimations and actual completion times.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Resource allocation patterns, defect rates.
Frequency of delayed dependencies, stuff like that.
Exactly that. By applying relatively simple statistical models to that existing data, you start to see recurring behavior in your delivery system.
Okay, makes sense.
Because, there's this deeply ingrained habit in project management of treating every single project as this unique, special snowflake.
Oh, yeah. This time is different.
Right. This time it's different. But human teams and organizational systems, they operate in patterns, always.
Yeah.
So if tasks tagged to, let's say, the legacy billing system consistently take 40% longer than planned, or if your team's velocity just drops off a cliff every time they collaborate with the compliance department.
Which, let's be honest, is every time.
Right. Those aren't unique anomalies anymore. Those are systemic signals.
So instead of being totally surprised when the compliance review delays the project yet again, you see that signal early and you adjust the timeline before the work even starts.
Precisely. In a traditional model, you only see that delay when the compliance milestone is officially missed.
And your options at that point are just terrible.
Awful. You either reallocate engineers, which disrupts all the other ongoing work, or you aggressively reduce the scope of the release, or you just force the team to work through the weekend, right? You're managing consequences.
Burning people out, basically.
Exactly. But predictive management allows you to spot a growing queue in your dependencies weeks earlier, which gives you the runway to adjust the sequencing of tasks before the bottleneck actually forms.
Okay, that makes perfect sense for structured data, right? Like the neat rows of numbers in a database or a Jira board.
Sure.
But there has to be a ceiling to how many spreadsheets, risk logs, and statistical variations a single human can manually track.
Oh, absolutely. We hit that ceiling fast.
So if AI's real superpower isn't just crunching those numbers faster, how does it help us get past that human ceiling?
What's fascinating here is that AI's primary contribution is scale. And crucially, its ability to process unstructured information.
Unstructured? Like what?
Well, when we talk about unstructured information, we're moving away from those neat little rows in Jira. We're talking about the messy reality of human communication.
Oh, like the actual conversations people are having.
Exactly. Status reports, risk descriptions, Slack messages, team emails, daily stand-up notes.
Wow. Okay. So what is the AI actually looking for when it scans a team's Slack channel or a weekly update email?
It uses natural language processing, or NLP, to extract weak signals from that text.
Weak signals.
Right. NLP doesn't just read the words like a keyword search. It analyzes the semantic structure and the sentiment. So, for example, it looks for the subtle inclusion of hedging language versus definitive language.
Okay, give me an example of what hedging language looks like to an algorithm. How does it spot that?
Okay, so a developer might write in a status update. We will ship the database migration on Tuesday. That's definitive.
Right, very clear.
But if, let's say, the next week, the update says, we are aiming to deploy the migration by Tuesday, assuming the legacy tables format correctly.
There it is.
Right. The NLP flags the phrases aiming to and assuming. And it maps that shift in wording directly to an increased probability of risk.
That is wild. It acts like a sieve, right? A normal status report acts like a net with massive holes. The big, obvious delays get caught, but the microscopic particles of doubt and confusion just fall right through.
That's a great way to put it.
And the NLP acts as a fine mesh filter that catches those microscopic particles.
Exactly. And it isn't just isolated phrases either. It can spot repeated references to unresolved issues across entirely different teams.
Oh, so connecting the dots.
Yeah. Like if a front-end developer and a back-end engineer are both independently expressing confusion about, say, the new authentication protocol, but in totally different channels.
The AI correlates that.
Yes. It connects that unstructured data. It can even detect subtle shifts in tone over time that might indicate stress, burnout, or just misalignment among the team.
It's like having a hypersensitive smoke detector. A normal manager might smell smoke when the flames are already visibly licking the walls of the server room. But the AI smoke detector is calibrated to sense the microscopic chemical changes in the air weeks before the actual fire starts. It senses the heat building up in the wiring, giving the team time to grab an extinguisher and deal with it quietly without having to call the fire department.
I love that analogy. But the newsletter insists on a very, very important caveat here. The AI does not replace the project manager.
Right, because it doesn't actually know what to do about the fire.
Exactly. An NLP algorithm does not understand the nuance of human context or, office politics. Its true value is simply reducing the latency between a signal occurring and human awareness of it.
Okay, so if AI is our early warning system, how do we actually harness that without turning our workspace into some weird surveillance state?
Yeah, that's the danger, right?
The biggest trap here has to be over-engineering the solution. We don't want to paralyze an engineering team with massive new reporting tools just to, feed the algorithm.
Right. Pragmatism is the key here. And the author of the newsletter suggests a surprisingly low-tech starting point.
Okay, I'm listening.
Instead of implementing enterprise-wide AI surveillance, you just shift the primary question you ask during planning. You stop asking, are we late? And you start asking, are we trending toward being late?
Oh, okay. And here's where it gets really interesting. And I need to pause and speak directly to you, the listener, for a second.
Yeah, this is important.
The original newsletter we're analyzing today contains several highly specific, ready-to-use prompt patterns designed exactly for this kind of pragmatic application.
They are incredibly useful.
They really are. They're built for the data your team already has right now without needing any massive software overhaul. We're going to break down the mechanics of these prompts right now, but we highly recommend that you actually go read the printed article to get direct access to those exact prompts.
Yeah, you can literally just copy and paste them into your workflow today.
Exactly. Go read the article.
Yeah.
So tell me about these prompts. Why are they so effective?
Well, those prompts are a goldmine because they position AI not as some autonomous decision-making robot, but as a structured reasoning partner.
Oh.
The value of these prompts isn't that the AI magically discovers some unknown, invisible risk from the ether. The value is that the AI forces structured reasoning on the information you already know, but just haven't fully synthesized yet.
But wait, let me play devil's advocate here for a second.
Sure.
If we're just feeding an AI our existing status reports, our historical JIRA tickets, our own team updates, which, let's face it, are already full of our own human biases, blind spots, and terrible estimations.
Right.
Doesn't the AI just regurgitate our own bad data back to us, like garbage in, garbage out?
That is such a crucial question, and it's the exact reason these prompts are structured the way they are.
Okay.
A basic prompt would just ask, when will we finish? And yes, the AI would just echo your bad estimations.
Yeah, that doesn't help anyone.
Right. But the prompts in the newsletter are designed to break that echo chamber by forcing the AI to correlate your current claims against historical realities.
Let's walk through one of the specific prompt categories from the text to see how that actually works. The author calls one of them forecasting beyond single estimates.
Right, because traditional project planning loves a single delivery date. We will ship the new mobile app on November 15th.
Oh, management loves the certainty of a date.
They thrive on it.
But a single date completely hides the underlying uncertainty. It's basically a fabricated number based on everything going perfectly, which it never does.
Exactly. So the prompt pattern for forecasting beyond single estimates changes the output entirely. You feed the AI your current backlog items, the historical completion data of similar tasks, and your current team capacity.
Okay.
But instead of asking for a date, you instruct the AI to generate a best case, an expected, and a worst case scenario. And crucially, you force it to list the assumptions behind each model.
Oh, wow. So instead of the AI just spitting out, you'll be 2 weeks late, what does that output actually look like in practice?
The output shifts from rigid certainty to realistic probability.
So the AI might output something like, based on past performance, there is a 70% chance of a 2-week delay. This probability is driven by the fact that your team historically underestimates database migrations by a factor of 3, and your current sprint contains a high density of migration tasks.
Wow. Okay. So it exposes the why behind the forecast.
Exactly. It forces you to confront the historical reality that, hey, your team is just bad at estimating database work.
That immediately changes the conversation you have with your team, doesn't it? You aren't just arguing about a random date anymore. You're discussing the specific risk of the database migration.
Yes.
Let's look at another category they highlight, dependency impact analysis.
This one is huge because dependencies are usually just a static list in a spreadsheet. Task A requires task B. But a list doesn't show you the cascading effects of a delay. The prompt pattern here asks you to input your web of dependencies and instructs the AI to map out the second and third order impacts if a specific critical path item slips by, say, 5 days.
So it turns a static list into a dynamic web of impact.
Exactly. So if the design team is 5 days late delivering the UI mockups, the AI doesn't just flag the design team.
No.
It highlights that the QA team will now have a massive idle period next week, followed by a severe bottleneck the week after, which will, ultimately push the final release date past the marketing launch window.
Precisely. And the newsletter also provides prompts for early risk detection, where the AI acts as a red teaming partner to proactively poke holes in your plan for the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. And there are prompts for scope change impact, which is incredibly vital for Agile environments.
Right, because stakeholders always want just one more thing.
Always. When a stakeholder asks for a small, tiny feature addition, you can feed that scope change into the prompt.
And the AI analyzes the non-obvious effects of that small change, right?
Right.
Cross-referencing it against current team load and historical data to show the true cost of saying yes to that stakeholder.
Exactly. It gives you the data to push back. Man. Again, I cannot stress this enough. The exact wording to execute these analyses is waiting for you in the source article. Go get those prompts.
Highly recommend it.
But looking at all of this, I do see a massive point of friction.
Okay, where do you see the breakdown happening?
The breakdown isn't the technology. Opening an LLM and running these prompts is actually easy. The hardest step has to be having the courage to act on those weak signals when you only have incomplete probabilistic information.
Spot on. You've hit on the fundamental human element of this whole digital transformation. If we connect this to the bigger picture, acting early on a weak signal requires immense organizational trust.
It's huge trust.
Because you're intervening before the problem is fully visible to anyone else in the company.
Right. Imagine walking into a meeting with a really stubborn VP of sales and saying, hey, we need to delay this major feature launch by a month.
Oh boy.
When they ask why, you can't point to a broken server. You can't point to a vendor that went bankrupt. You have to point to a trend line and a probability model.
Yeah, that's a tough sell.
You literally have to look them in the eye and say, well, the AI analyzed our team's communication and determined our tone is stressed, our hedging language has increased by 40%, and there is an 80% probability our dependency queue is going to bottleneck.
And well, fix the trend is the immediate response you will get from traditional leadership.
Exactly. They will reject the probability model entirely because it doesn't fit their concrete timeline. I don't care about your NLP analysis, we committed to Q3.
Which is exactly why the transition to predictive project management represents a massive shift in leadership responsibility.
Yeah.
In a reactive, hindsight-driven model, a leader's job is simply explaining outcomes after they occur. We missed Q3 because the vendor failed.
Right.
But in a predictive model, your responsibility shifts to influencing outcomes before they materialize.
Because you can no longer hide behind a concrete milestone that hasn't arrived yet.
Exactly.
If the probability model says you are trending late, you own that trend today. You have to be totally comfortable communicating in probabilities instead of certainties, and having highly transparent and sometimes politically very difficult conversations with stakeholders much earlier in the life cycle.
And this highlights why human leadership becomes drastically more important in an AI-driven environment, not less. Because people hear AI project management and they panic.
Right.
They fear they're being replaced. But the data, the natural language processing, the prompt analysis, it can all indicate what is highly likely to happen.
Right.
It exposes the hidden risks and removes the latency of information. But the algorithm absolutely cannot decide what should be done about it.
Exactly. The AI can flag a massive bottleneck forming around a specific senior engineer, but the AI cannot sit down with that burned out engineer, exercise empathy, and actually redesign their workflow.
Nope.
The AI can calculate an 80% chance of failure, but it cannot walk into the boardroom and negotiate a scope reduction with the executive team.
The human judgment, the engineering discipline, the emotional intelligence required to navigate a complex organization, that all remains exclusively human territory. What the AI provides is simply the gift of time.
Time to fix it. So what does this all mean for you navigating your own complex projects? To synthesize everything we've covered today from issue 27, AI and predictive analytics are not a magic wand.
No, they are not.
They don't automatically write cleaner code, they don't negotiate with difficult clients, and they certainly don't fix your organizational dysfunction.
But they do remove the most fundamental limitation project managers have faced for decades, the agonizing, costly delay between a problem forming deep within a team's workflow and that problem finally becoming visible on a status report.
Yeah.
Once that delay is gone, your daily reality as a manager fundamentally changes.
It's the difference between performing an autopsy on a failed project and practicing preventative medicine to keep it alive.
Beautifully said. You have to look at your own work environment and ask yourself a pretty uncomfortable question. Are you spending your week managing the consequences of things that have already happened? Or are you using the data you already have to actively shape outcomes as they develop?
Absolutely. And to help you make that shift, remember to check out the printed article for issue 27 of the Agile Software Engineering newsletter. Grab those ready-to-use AI prompts. They really are the perfect starting toolkit to shift your team's perspective.
They'll save you so much time.
They will. But before we wrap up today, I want to leave you with a completely different, slightly provocative thought to mull over.
Ooh.
We spent a lot of time discussing how AI is getting incredibly adept at reading our unstructured data. It can act as that fine mesh sieve, analyzing our Slack messages, our status updates, and our subtle shifts in tone to predict if a project is heading off the rails.
Right, the early warning smoke detector.
But human beings are incredibly clever, adaptable creatures. If an engineering team knows that an algorithm is actively watching their tone for signs of stress, uncertainty, or delay...
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Will teams eventually start subconsciously gaming the AI?
That is a fascinating behavioral question.
Right. Will we start seeing teams communicating with this forced, artificial, toxic positivity just to keep the AI from flagging their project as at risk to senior management?
Everything is amazing. We absolutely love the new database architecture. No delays whatsoever.
No stress here, just great vibes and perfectly compiling code. It makes you wonder what the next evolution of project management will look like when the early warning system starts fundamentally changing the very behavior it's trying to measure.
Wow, that's a scary thought.
How do you measure the truth when everyone knows the algorithm is listening? Something to think about as you draft your next weekly status update. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.
Thank you for listening to the Agile Engineering Deep Dive podcast. If you found this episode valuable, feel free to share it with someone who might benefit, a colleague, your team, or your network. You can access all episodes by subscribing to the podcast and find their written counterparts in the Agile Software Engineering newsletter on LinkedIn. And if you have thoughts, ideas, or stories from your own engineering journey, I'd love to hear from you. Your input helps shape what we explore next. Thanks again for tuning in, and see you in the next episode.